Good evening to you, my
I
petrifying.
pushed the wrong button.
It was taken apart as part of a But what do you make of these accounts?
I
Be
don't
sure
make
to let
much
us
of
know your
them.
thoughts in the comments section below and help us grow this community while working.
The man who tried to fake an element. Run! Has anybody seen the old Dune? That one's good. That's funny. I'm gonna go to my history real quick, because we're gonna go to the... We're gonna go to this one. And we're gonna go to... Let's see. Let's do dash cam. Even though I recognize that one, and the 5 freaky. And ooh, they have 12 creepy instead of 5 creepy. Yeah, we'll do that one. And where was the one that I said 12 creepy? And then should we do it Instagram horror or ooh, that one's got 8. Or we can do 3 disturbing true scary stories. Yeah. Or yeah, hey, we'll do it unknown on camera, and then the scary stories. Almost as scary as me talking like this.
In this footage submitted by Jason, something happens that if it weren't caught on dashcam, you wouldn't believe it. It was around 1 in the morning.
It.
Jason was on his way to what he thought was going to be the house of a woman he matched with on a dating app.
Bullshit.
The person had given Jason their address
That's
over the app.
lie.
They had not exchanged numbers. After putting the address into his phone,
I
he
don't
realized that
believe
not
it,
only was the
Jason.
address 20 minutes away, it was also in a less desirable side of town. Against his better judgment, he got in his
you
car
gotta
anyway
smash,
to head to
you
the
gotta
given address,
smash.
which was in a cul-de-sac. After entering the cul-de-sac, he realized all 3 houses had all of their lights out, and when he tried to message the girl he matched on the dating app, she would no longer answer. After waiting a few minutes for an answer, he realized the person had unmatched him, meaning it may have been a trick or prank, and so he turned the car around. As he was leaving the cul-de-sac, He noticed someone on the sidewalk stepping out into the street, and so he locks his doors and slows down. This is the footage captured on the dash cam.
No fucking way.
The footage is kind of grainy, so it's hard to make out some of the smaller details. But basically what happened was Jason slowed down as he saw a masked person walking into the middle of the street, immediately knowing something was off because there was nothing across the street except a busy highway. So he locks his door and comes to a stop as the person is directly in front of his car. Then the masked person reaches into his pocket, grabs a handgun that's a little hard to see in the video due to lighting, and starts running towards his driver's side door. Jason immediately steps on the gas and drives past the man, who then tries to open the door, which thankfully was locked mere seconds earlier. It's hard to see unless you pause and zoom in, but the man in the video was wearing a creepy smiling mask. The man didn't fire any rounds, but that's also under the assumption that the gun was even loaded or real. It's not that uncommon to hear about people using fake guns in scenarios like this.
Yeah, just to
What
put
was
off
strange
a little
about
bit of
this
scary.
was while even though it was in a less desirable end of town, it was still a very residential block right next to a highway, so it was a slightly questionable place to pull this. However, it doesn't take a detective to put the pieces together that this was a setup through the dating app to lure some unsuspecting guy to a dead-end road in order to rob him at gunpoint, or worse. According to Jason, the spot in which the man stepped into the street was out of view of any houses, as it ran alongside a long fence and bushes.
Yeah, he knew.
Jason reported the whole incident to the police, including the given address. Jason was accompanied with a police officer to knock on the door of the address in question the next day, and an older woman who claimed to live alone answered the door. She claimed she had nothing to do with it, and that's obviously pretty likely to be the truth, meaning a random person simply chose that address because the street was low-key and hidden, debatably a perfect spot to try and set somebody up.
Oh,
Luckily,
shit.
Jason didn't decide to stay put and got away without harm, because who knows what could have happened.
Well, that's the
Before the next
spot in
clip, I just
question.
want to talk about today's sponsor, Aura. I read a lot of horror
Oh,
stories
thank
on this
you,
channel,
Aura.
but a growing horror story in America that more and more people are falling victim. Fire began on the Chimney Tops Trail in the Great Smoky Mountains now.
Yo, I saw this dash cam. This dash cam is fucking nuts. Like, this is freaky. It's like you're driving through the pits of hell. Like, straight up Dante's Inferno. Like, you're driving through Dante's Inferno, like his first descension into hell. Like, it's crazy what happens next. I want to kill it. But, yeah,
National
it's
Park.
crazy.
The fire was sparked by a group of kids playing with matches in the woods, and it was fueled by unusually high winds. Flames erupted in a remote area with steep terrain that made access to the fire difficult for firefighters. Crews spent 3 days working to create a containment area lower down the mountain. Helicopters flew overhead doing bucket drops to attempt to slow the spread of the fire. On the 4th day, winds picked up and the fire spread, but the Gatlinburg fire chief said projections showed no immediate threat to Gatlinburg. Despite the predictions, on Monday, November 28th, dry weather and extreme winds caused the fire to grow rapidly. That evening, wind gusts of up to 87 miles per hour sent embers flying into Gatlinburg, wreaking havoc on the city and surrounding communities. Town officials reported that evacuation alerts were sent out to residents' cell phones, but many residents said they never received any alerts. 14 people were killed and 191 people were injured in the fire. The flames destroyed nearly 2,500 homes and left an estimated $2 billion worth of
They
damages.
had, like, no
Resident Michael Luciano recorded
time
his
to
and his
bounce.
stepbrother's horrifying escape
no
down the
fucking
mountain.
time.
During the drive down, just about every single passing cabin is seen engulfed in flames.
This is a different one than I saw, because the one I saw was just like the family. No, this is like the same one, huh? Look at. You remember watching this with me?
We'll get out of it. Hit the gas.
I can't see.
You can see. Why is every cabin on fire?
Fuck.
Fuck. I don't think. I don't know about this. Dude, this started at Natty Branch. We're going the wrong way.
What?
Freezing like
Oh,
that?
God.
Oh my god.
And at multiple points, The two men find themselves stuck behind fallen trees.
They know where is it.
Go through it. Go through it.
I can't.
I cannot be stuck. Try it on the left side, but these sticks are short. Get around and start.
Even at one point getting stuck behind another driver, which happened to be an old man who rolled his window down to tell Michael that he couldn't see.
Does this motherfucker want to die here? What the fuck is wrong with you? Go! Get out of here!
The old man ended up pulling to the side and following Michael's taillights down the mountain. At certain points, it seems very likely the men aren't going to make it out alive. But by some stroke of luck, they made it to the containment area with only minor damages to their truck. Their luck didn't just end there, though. Their cabin survived the fires with very little damage, despite its close proximity to the surrounding engulfing flames.
So lucky.
While this footage can almost make you feel like you're in the truck with them, it obviously can't compare to the actual fear of being in the suffocating heat inside the truck mixed with tension of the life or death situation at hand.
Shit was and how fucking choking.
In this footage, a
a
young girl who wished to remain nameless, so I'll refer to her as
that.
Amanda, was driving home from her boyfriend's house. She had just pulled out of the driveway and started heading down her boyfriend's block when a car in the middle of the road came into view. The car wasn't moving but didn't have its hazards on, so Amanda waited for a few moments until the driver in front of her lowered his window and waved for her to go around him, so she did. Upon passing the car, she quickly realized the car behind her started moving as well, which at first wasn't too weird, but it became clear very soon that the car was following her after it started making the same turns she made. She started to make as many random turns as possible, and sure enough, the car behind her stayed on her tail. She then calls her boyfriend, which I muted at her request for privacy, and she explained to him that somebody was following her. He reassured her to keep calm and everything would be fine, and to just drive to the nearest police station. So she looked up the nearest police precincts, and when they were only a few blocks away from it, the car behind her turned the opposite way, likely because they knew she was going to the police station. Still on the phone with her boyfriend, she told him the car behind her turned a different direction, so her boyfriend assured her she should be fine to go straight home. Just be cautious. Amanda drove home after this, which was in the same town, so it was unlikely to be a long trip home. She even checked to make sure the coast was clear before parking her car and going inside. But later in the night, she woke up to this.
No way they found her.
Amanda heard sounds right outside her bedroom window, like someone was trying to lift it open from the outside. Once she turned the lamp on, the noise stopped. She called for her dad when she realized what was happening, and the occurrence was immediately associated with the vehicle that was following her earlier. So the family called the police to file a police report and showed them the dashcam footage of the vehicle following her. The vehicle could be identified as a BMW, and Amanda was asked if she knew anyone who owned a BMW that might want to hurt her. The only person she could think of was a guy named Christopher Crea, somebody who she blocked on social media for obsessive harassment, who happened to drive a black BMW. These were the last texts Christopher had sent to Amanda before she blocked him. Christopher happened to know Amanda's boyfriend
Go
personally
fucking
through mutual
yourself.
friends, and through those connections,
Only answered me when you needed me. Yeah, you stopped answering there. Tell this bitch I'm sorry. Do you know how frustrating you think you're above me? Oh, I got hurt.
he knew where he lived, so the idea that this Christopher guy waited outside Amanda's boyfriend's house suddenly became a possibility. As an idle threat, Amanda's boyfriend sent an Instagram DM to Christopher that she was filing for a restraining order if he bothered her again, but his response was him acting confused and claiming he hadn't bothered her. Whether it was acting or not is a mystery, but nothing happens again at Amanda's house after that, so it doesn't seem too far-fetched that it could have been this Christopher guy. The following dashcam footage was taken in the vehicle of Uber driver Christina Spikuza. And I want to warn you, while there is no actual graphic footage shown, the story behind it is upsetting. 38-year-old mother of four Christina Spikuza was doing some night drives on February 10th, 2022, when 22-year-old Calvin Crew used his girlfriend's phone to order an Uber. Christina accepted the ride and picked Calvin up. He gets into the car in a sketchy mask covering his entire face except for his glowing eyes. She greets him by asking for Tanea and how are you today, but he doesn't answer either question, or if he did, it was likely an inaudible grunt. Christina was extremely polite to Calvin, even asking how his day was going a few minutes in.
Did you have a good day today?
Calvin is seen turning to check if the coast was clear, and then lifting his mask up slightly before pulling a gun on Christina and threatening her.
I'm sorry? You've got to be joking. What are you doing? No, it's not. Stop. Come on, man. I got a family. What are you doing? What are you doing? Please stop. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? To where? I cannot do that. Why are you doing this? Please?
He tells her to cancel the ride so that it could no longer be tracked. Not long after, he grabs her phone to gain access to her banking apps to transfer money to his girlfriend's phone.
Get off of me. Please. No.
Before grabbing the dash cam and throwing it out the window, he tells her that everything will be okay if she does what he says. But that later proved to be a lie. Christina's body was discovered by an Amazon driver 2 days later, lying in the woods 50 feet off the road, with a single gunshot wound to the head. Detectives found Christina's dashboard camera along the route of her last Uber ride, and the footage provided all the evidence necessary to prosecute Calvin for her murder. Prosecutors are currently seeking the death penalty for Calvin.
What a piece of shit. Well, that just made me sad. I don't want to watch that. It made me sad. Maybe I shouldn't be watching Mr. Nightmare if I want to just laugh.
This video was captured by a Reddit user's doorbell camera. He
Right.
claims to have woken up to his dog going crazy outside, followed by a notification from the app Ring, saying motion was detected at his door. Upon opening the app, he's greeted to nothing but an eyeball looking directly into his camera, and a man whispering and mumbling to himself. He proceeds to knock and ring the doorbell. He then begins trying his luck at the doorknob and window, all the while still mumbling and whispering to himself. After the homeowner threatens to call the police, the man gets defensive and claims he was just looking for his dog, conveniently named Fido.
Okay, I was just looking for my dog, Fido. Whoa. Don't have to get all like that and stuff, honey.
We could be
In this
friends.
video, we see a man seemingly waiting to be led into a house. Whether it's his house or not is unknown. As he waits by the door, a strange animal-like transparent figure can be seen floating towards the door, and as it reaches and passes the man, he turns, possibly reacting to a sound he may have heard.
It's Porky. No. He wants to get let back in.
These are two clips that were likely taken back during the entire clown epidemic of 2016. In this first clip, we see someone dressed as a clown wielding a small sword, lurking around by the front door for a bit and running off after ringing the doorbell.
Hee 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 hee. Hee 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 hee.
Similarly, in this next
What a
clip,
bitch.
someone dressed as a clown can be seen standing in the distance,
Now
looking at the
that's
front door.
menacing. That's a good
After a
one.
while, he approaches the door, seems to stare into the doorbell camera for a few seconds, then walks away.
It's a good one.
Whether these were pranks meant to scare the homeowners or not, most people wouldn't want to open their doors to these two.
See, that's a good one. That would scare the shit out of me. The other one where he's like, with his knife and all like licking it, and then like rings the doorbell and runs away like a little girl. That was lame. That one's good. That one's
In this
actually
video,
good.
around 2 p.m., the man in the dark hoodie seen here apparently rang the doorbell and no one answered. The man who lives in this house was wearing headphones, therefore couldn't hear the doorbell. So the man in the hoodie likely presumed no one was home, and soon returned with his friend in the white hoodie around 15 minutes later. The man in the dark hoodie attempts to kick in the door, while his friend in the white hoodie stands by. The man who owns the house is able to hear the loud bangs of the attempted burglar's foot hitting the door, and he yells out something unintelligible that scares the two men off. In this video, the camera catches a shirtless man approaching the door, but instead of actually ringing the bell or knocking on the door, he pretends to knock on the door. What you can't see on the screen is a car that's waiting for the man in front of the house. According to the homeowner, he could be seen talking to someone waiting in the car off camera later on. It's likely that the shirtless man was forced to do something by the person in the car, clearly something that he doesn't want to do given that he fakes an entire conversation with the homeowner, all the while checking to make sure the person in the car could see him talking. It was apparent he or the person in the car were looking for a person named Matt, who they thought lived in this house. One could only imagine what this man was put out to do to this Matt person.
Well, that's good of that guy. What if he was in trouble and he's hanging out with the wrong person? He's like, yeah, you gotta go check to see if Matt's there. And he goes and he sees. I mean, he didn't want to cause anybody trouble at that house, so he did what he had to do.
In this video, the doorbell camera detects motion, but seemingly nothing appears in the frame, except for a small white orb that floats across the screen. Some paranormal investigators have referred to orbs appearing in pictures and videos from allegedly paranormal sources.
Yeah,
Apparently the orb in this video is significant enough to trip the motion sensors of the camera system.
I get those on my camera all the time. They're mostly just little bugs.
This
or
one isn't a
flying
video,
gnats.
but rather a pretty disturbing picture caught by a Redditor's doorbell camera.
Or gin.
After being woken up by
But
a
it's
notification on their
mostly
phone,
gnats.
they checked it to see a message saying, "Your doorbell detected a visitor." After checking the app, they didn't see anything, and as anyone would, assumed it was maybe a bug or a small animal that tripped the motion sensor. However, the Redditor received more notifications, and after checking the app again, was faced with this disturbing image. Whether it's even a male or female is almost impossible to tell, but perhaps the most disturbing part of the image is the shape and distance of the person's eyes. It's not something anyone would ever want to see at their front door.
It's fetal alcohol
In this
syndrome.
video, we see someone wearing a mask approaching the door and covering the doorbell with a piece of tape. The homeowner got an alert that motion was detected on the porch, and upon checking the footage was ready to grab his gun. It's not known what was done while the tape was covering the camera, but eventually one side of the tape peeled off, revealing the person in the mask was gone. The homeowner doesn't know if it was simply kids playing a prank or someone who meant him and his family harm.
Probably just kids playing a prank.
This video shows exactly why you should always check who's outside your door before opening it. This doorbell camera caught two men in front of the house. One of them approaching the front door and ringing the doorbell, armed with a gun. He attempts to hide his face as he approaches the door, then hides off to the side, waiting for someone to open up. The other man walks down the sidewalk, waiting for his friend to do whatever he was about to do. But luckily, nobody answered the door.
Do they not see that there's a camera
This
on the
homeowner's
doorbell?
camera captured two suspicious men pull up in their driveway and wait outside their front door. The one on the left quickly notices the camera, and the two flee. But not even 15 minutes later, the two pull up into the homeowner's driveway again, having apparently decided they'd go through with the break-in anyway. This time, one of them immediately attempts to kick the door down, but the homeowner is ready this time and speaks through the doorbell speaker, claiming the police are on their way, scaring the two off for good this time.
Oh, brazen ass fucking kids, man.
On September 10th,
Fuck.
2018, a Florida man wearing a bulletproof vest and carrying an assault rifle rang his neighbor's doorbell at 4 in the morning.
Florida
The homeowner
man.
grabbed her two children and stayed put in the bathroom. After spotting the man on her security footage, she immediately called the police and her husband, who was out of town for work. Roughly 25 minutes later, the police arrived. The man faced aggravated assault charges. The homeowner said the daughter of the unnamed man had stayed at their home recently, claiming she was afraid of her own father.
Jeez.
At some off hour in the night, this man's doorbell camera captures a mysterious, transparent-looking, blurry figure slowly moving down the sidewalk across the street.
Oh, when that car drove by, it looked like.
It closely resembles a human. 10 minutes later, the police arrive.
Looked like this thing started flashing, but it's just I can still see it. I think it just glitched.
It closely resembles a human, and that's what most may assume. But the weird part of this one is that after reviewing the footage, the homeowner asked a neighbor who also had a camera to check their footage at the same time. And their footage didn't reveal the figure walking down the sidewalk.
Oh no. Well, at least I wasn't saddened by that one. That shit sucked. That last fucking thing sucked. There we go. 5 videos of the unknown. Let's get some gin sightings up in here. Are you scared yet,
There's a
babe?
YouTuber by the name of
I
Dan
think I
Bell.
pooped my
He's known for
pants.
exploring abandoned places on his own and getting it on video.
I
The
pooped and
purpose of
peed
these
my
videos
pants.
is not to
I'm gonna
catch
have to wash
paranormal
this.
footage, but simply to explore these places.
Change my diaper.
However, in this specific video of his, a number of unsettling events take place that would make most people run for the exit. This video was shot at an abandoned children's asylum. You could tell the eerie vibes from the place from
Abandoned
just outside.
children's asylum? Those things existed. That's so crazy.
Dan's camera battery inexplicably explodes in his hands, which is only the start of the strange occurrences.
Wait, what?
You could tell the eerie vibes from the place from just outside. Dan's camera battery inexplicably explodes in his hands, which
How does Dan's battery just explode in his hands? Is it from Samsung? Did he get a Samsung battery?
Huh? Pretzels. You don't like them.
Am I just watching this with my Pokemon chat? Is there nobody else in the chat? You guys are gonna get really tired of hearing me say that in my VODs. You guys even watch my VODs. Yeah, we got one person in the chat. Say hello, please. I'm lonely. Are those actual letters that he found, or is this just stock footage? 'Cause that would be fucking crazy if he found like kid letters.
is only the start of the strange occurrences.
Shit! Fucking battery exploded.
Soon after, without even knowing it, Dan is being stalked by an unknown presence. In this shot, you can see what looks like the shadow of someone's arm making a motion as if they had just told someone to shush.
What
In
creepy.
a follow-up shot in an adjacent room, if you look closely, you can notice something peering in through the doorknob hole to this door.
Alright.
Something peering in through the doorknob hole to this door.
You're just making up shit now.
Exactly 1 minute later in the video, what looks like a white figure can be seen peering at the camera as Dan turns. And when his hand moves away, you can see the figure is gone. This white figure might match the white figure that peered through the doorknob hole. And finally, when Dan finds himself in a room with blood on the floor, you can hear a voice in the next room over, saying what most closely resembles "Let's get him."
Oh my god, I'm fucking freaked out.
Dan had a theory of his own as to what was following him around in there.
I think that a former patient has returned to this facility, to this house, and is living here in one of the rooms upstairs.
Others believe there may have been more than one person in there, and that they had some kind of white sheets over their heads to hide their identities, planning on robbing him or worse.
Yeah, that's probably it. More than likely.
Powley's Island is a small town in South Carolina, which by the immediate looks of it is a very peaceful place. But there is a story that many of the locals swear by, known as the Gray Man. Many locals claim they have seen the Gray Man, and some go as far as to say that any time the Gray Man has been spotted, a hurricane has swept through the island shortly after. All sightings of the Gray Man have been
Go
on the
Gray
coast.
Man!
There are many pictures online which have allegedly caught the Gray Man, but this one video captured by a Coast Guard surveillance camera captures a strange gray apparition moving down the boardwalk, and this was captured during Hurricane Florence.
I thought he was a predictor of hurricanes though, not like... just chills there afterwards.
YouTuber by the name of Time to Play TV decided to spend the night at an allegedly haunted hotel in Georgia, the Riverview Hotel.
As you know, this is where we went to. This place that the video you're about to see is a haunted hotel. It was made in like 1916 by 3 women who had it built, and then they ran it, and they obviously eventually have passed away. And then I guess the sightings started happening after they started passing away. People would see a woman in the hallway. Stuff would move, stuff would happen, and people would say, "Hey, that's the girl I saw. The pictures on the wall is the woman I saw."
His plan was to set up a camcorder in the room while he slept and try to capture any paranormal footage. Unbeknownst to him until after his visit, a visitor had recently died in that exact room he stayed in.
Ooh, creepy.
Before even setting up his camcorder, strange things already started to occur, like the fan turning on and off and the bathroom door shutting on its own.
His penis getting
My
hard.
fan has shut off and turned back on. See that? Now the fan and the light are both plugged in behind the bed, and they're connected. So that shuts them both off. You hear the fan shut off? And the fan by itself is turned off, I want to say, maybe 2 or 3 times. The bathroom door over there, it's closed. Now, I don't mean a little bit. I mean, it's fully closed. Now, the reason it's open now is because I thought maybe a breeze, maybe something. There's no windows open. I got nothing going on, and that thing right there is just closed all by itself. It's closing right now, guys. Just move a little bit. I'm telling you, just
Oh shit!
see that?
Oh shit! It
No one in
closed.
Completely alone.
Well, your air conditioner's right there.
No?
There she is. I see her.
There is no one here, guys. I'm using the front facing the camera, so it's kind of
Yeah, you had a little midget
You can see.
run through there, didn't
Watch.
you?
Watch. It doesn't close by itself.
Then night came, and upon checking the footage the next morning, he could see things were just as strange overnight.
The boner kept rising. Whoa! Oh my god! What the fuck? You slept through that?
After not only the chair, but also the entire bed moves, he decides he's not going back to sleep. Whether this was an elaborate hoax or truly a haunted hotel room is up to you to decide.
I don't know, the bead moved. It's the proof.
It's the story everyone's heard 100 times already. A house nestled in the Long Island town of Amityville,
Enough proof
which
for
will
me.
forever be linked to what is known as the Amityville horror phenomenon. On
The
November 13,
Amityville.
1974, the estate was the scene of a mass murder. Ronald J. DeFeo Jr., who was 23 at the time, shot and killed with a rifle his entire family while they were asleep, which included his parents and 4 siblings. 13 months later, the Lutz family purchased the 5-bedroom, 3.5-bathroom home at a drastically reduced price of $80,000. But they only lasted 28 days before leaving it due to strange phenomenon, including George Lutz, the father, waking up at 3 a.m. every morning, which was around the time Ron DeFeo carried out his murders, and the youngest daughter, Missy, beginning to speak to an imaginary young entity in the house. A camera investigation was conducted of the house, and out of all the pictures taken, one stood out the most. The boy in this picture is commonly thought to represent the youngest DeFeo family member who was murdered in the house and also the entity that Missy had been communicating with.
It's a little boy. It's Jin, I tell you what.
This is another video uploaded by a YouTuber who decided to venture out alone to an allegedly haunted abandoned building. This time a house in a rural part of Japan, seemingly in the middle of the woods. While scoping the perimeter of the house, the cameraman is suddenly startled by this.
音がやばい。何何何？うわ、何？手じゃない今。ねえ、ちょっと待って、手打つんなかった今。ねえ。
A hand can be seen grabbing the corner of the house, causing the man to flee. Even after this, though, apparently the cameraman is still determined enough to enter the house to continue with the investigation against anyone's better judgment.
何なんか聞こえる。うわ、ちょっと待って。なんか聞こえるんだけど。何？嘘。うわ、聞こえた。うわ、聞こえちゃった。どうしよう。うわ、ちょっと待って。
Shortly after entering the basement, this is what the camera catches.
裏側。ねえ。いや、マジでやばい。なんかいる。絶対いる。
That's why he does the pan around there for a second.
何
And then pans right
The
back.
cameraman was clearly being stalked by someone in this house. By who remains a mystery. Some reactions to the video even suggest that it may have been the ghost of someone who formerly lived there.
A ghost. that was definitely no ghost. Or Jin. I would admit to Jin, but that was neither ghost nor Jin. It was just his crewmate. True horror scary stories. I should have got ones with footage. Let me look. Let me double check. Let me double check and look and check and look. Check a look. Check a look. Check a look. Scary story. For a dark and rainy night. Oh, I don't know what sound like Dracula already. Oh. Should I do, I want something with video, because if it's just somebody talking, then it gets kind of, I lose interest. Nothing's popping up. Stories. Trick or treat stories. True stories. Disappearance stories. Kidnap stories. Sports stories. Chicken nugget stories. I'll just do it this way. Scary stories. With video. With footage. There we go. That's what I'm talking about. Huh. I'll do a couple more. I might not even get to weed shop tonight. Who knows? My hose. And we'll do a Nuke's Top 5. How's that? We will do a Nuke's Top 5. If things get too scary. Story 1, Cameron L.
It was January of 2016. My buddies and I live right next to a nature preserve and used to love to explore it. It was a weekend and we were looking for something to do. And being mischievous, we decided to go explore the storm drain that supplied water to the creek in the nature preserve. It had a barred barricade blocking entry into it. So we decided we'd throw some rocks in to see if the rocks made contact at any point so we could figure out the depth. However, we received something much more in return. After throwing a rock against the wall of the storm drain, a couple seconds passed, and we heard a terrifying thump or bang in return.
What the hell?
Dusk was approaching, so we called it a day and watched back over the video we recorded of it. The next weekend, I gathered a few more buddies, and we decided we would unbolt the barricade to the drain and go inside.
Okay.
I got the barricade
that sounds
to
like
fall
a great
down,
idea.
and we made our entrance. It went in about 20 feet until it hit a dead end. However, there was a second branch of the drain to our left that we'd have to take a step up to get into. We proceeded in one by one, all 5 of us. At first, it was nothing but spider webs and mud. We traveled about 500 to 1,000 feet into the drain as it kept getting skinnier, and we had to duck to proceed. We were all frozen in our tracks as we heard the same exact thump we heard the weekend before. A scary and hard to describe sound. We had no signal and were beyond terrified at that point because we were all right next to each other and the noise had come from much further away. At this point, my friend decided to start recording in case anything else happened. We made it out of the drain safely without anything else happening. The scariest and most chilling part of this whole story was when I reviewed the video and saw a slight outline of a head at one of the turns of the drain. This couldn't possibly have been one of us because we had all been together. I took a screenshot of it and zoomed in as far as I could, and well, I was horrified. There in the frame was a demon-shaped looking head with glowing eyes and what appeared to be pointy ears. To this day, we have never gone back into that nature preserve, let alone the storm drain.
I just see like a little boy looking back, but I could be wrong.
It all started when a group of friends and I decided to start exploring abandoned warehouses due to the stories and myths surrounding them in our hometown, Laredo, Texas. The story surrounding the area
Laredo,
of warehouses
Texas
was that the
is
buildings were
pretty
haunted
boring,
due to immigrant
so
workers being worked and
I don't
mistreated
blame
to
them
death.
for wanting to
The local news covered the death of
do
many of the
nothing,
workers.
do
Many
shit
of the
like
deaths
this.
were also ignored by the authorities due to the illegal status of the workers. In the warehouse that we visited, the company was in charge of the maintenance of the railroad tracks as well as the disposal of hazardous material.
One of the many
In the video I
fine
recorded,
grocers
the
you'd
barrels
find
filled with
in
chemical waste are
Texas,
seen spilled open.
especially in
The warehouses
Odessa.
are located in the part of town where there's nothing really around
Odessa
except for
and
train
Midland
tracks.
and
The
Lubbock.
predominantly Hispanic culture of my city gave rise to the stories about railroad workers that had lost their lives in the area. We decided to explore the warehouse during the day
I guess
and then during
Laredo,
the night.
Texas isn't
On our
so
daytime
bad.
exploration, we found remains of what seemed to be
Better than
remnants of
Lubbock.
satanic rituals because we found a chicken's foot and pentagrams drawn in permanent marker.
Yeah.
We figured that was the work of local groups.
There's definitely some Satanist white children living in Texas too. You'll find that a lot. I found them both in what was I saying? In Dallas and in Midland, Odessa. I've definitely seen some Satanists hang out and do some Satanist weird shit. There's some pentagrams and some chopped up, mutilated, like animal body carcass at this park I took my dog to whenever I lived in Dallas. Ex Maxima. Rest in peace, buddy. Rest in peace, Sally.
Trying to communicate with the damned souls of the workers. We also spotted a makeshift couch or bed where the workers would sleep. The night we visited, we had the feeling we were being watched. We were actually also being followed and attacked by crows inside the building.
Oh, no, there. ¿Qué son?
That's
While
fucked
we were
up.
exploring that night, on several occasions, we spotted shadows and heard noises throughout the area. As we delved deeper, we got the feeling that someone or something didn't want us in the warehouse. A creepy laugh can be heard in the video footage I captured, and that was our cue to get the hell out.
Nada. I don't think there's no power. Did you hear that? Yeah. Let's just get out of here.
Things only got weirder though, as the satanic drawings and the chicken foot were gone the next time we passed that spot, yet they were spotted only earlier that day. I'm completely convinced that someone or something was stalking us in that warehouse that night. I believe the lost souls of the workers, or a satanic group of people that frequented the place, were there that night with us, watching. As we walked out of the warehouse, we noticed that the crows were very on edge and tried to attack us, like I mentioned earlier. The events that happened that night still sometimes keep me up at night.
That is pretty creepy, not gonna lie. But that's probably definitely just like some homeless people or
some friends of mine came home from a
Satanists
hockey
that
party
hang
after
out
their
there,
game
some young
and
kids.
asked me to come hang at their dorm. They brought some girls to the party that they knew from high school and happened to be in the city. They came back to the dorm to hang as well. One of the girls that came in was super friendly but very drunk. I didn't see her drink anything in the dorms. I left with my girlfriend at about 2 a.m. At around 3, I heard sirens and could see lights outside of my window.
Oh no!
I figured it was just another kid that came home with alcohol poisoning.
Yeah.
Then I heard the most gut-wrenching
Happens a
scream
lot.
of my life. I walked out of my room and saw my friends from the dorm I had just left running down the hall wanting my help. I started running down the hall following them and saw blood on the floor and thought for sure someone had been stabbed. Then I saw 3 police officers and a paramedic team strapping the friendly girl down to a stretcher while she was screaming and thrashing. I went to ask my friends what happened, and they looked exhausted. They said her eyes rolled back into her head. She started growling and bleeding heavily from both nostrils. She attacked some of our friends, yanking their hair and biting them like an animal. This girl fought off 3 6-foot-tall, fairly muscular guys by herself. Keep in mind, this girl is probably 5'1", 110 pounds, and was possessing superhuman strength, all while screaming at the top of her lungs. The scariest part is when the RA came over to pray over the situation, as he's a devoted Christian, and she started screaming, "F God, F Jesus, the devil is coming for you all." At this point, my heart was sinking in pure fear of the situation, as was everyone else who was present. The emergency responders said they had never seen anything like this, even if she was possibly drugged at the party. I was able to capture a roughly 20-second video of her screaming in the dorms. You can't really see her as the paramedics are in the way, but if you listen closely towards the end of the video, you can hear her scream, "They're coming for you all, they're coming for you next." Last I heard, she woke up with no memory of the situation, but is in a very dark place at the moment.
Oh yeah,
this is
acid.
the video that was captured.
Drugs for sure. Yeah, that was definitely drugs. Definitely drugs. Some
My small town, there's not
hallucinogenics.
much to do, so my friends and I make the best of it. And in the winter, we sometimes throw snowballs at cars. This was after we got done ice fishing one day. We went to my house and decided it would be fun to throw snowballs at cars for a while. Usually no one would get too angry as they were just snowballs.
But that was
One person
definitely
got
like
really mad at us.
hallucinogens.
My friend Drake decided to throw a snowball at one more car and he told me to record. He hit right under the back passenger side. It sounded like a hard hit. We stayed there for a second, laughing, until he slowed down and eventually threw it in reverse.
Yeah.
Damn, little kids.
Sit there. He's right there.
We ran and hid behind a car in a different parking lot, and he pulled in about 5 feet from us, but he didn't see us. So we ran home, and that's when I stopped recording. When we got home, we took off our jackets and sat down to watch the video I just took, but we were interrupted by this sound. I froze in my seat. Then again. I didn't think this guy would find us, but still I turned off the lights. My dogs went crazy. Drake and I are 14, we don't get scared that easily, but this was freaking us out. We hid in my bathroom in my room and turned off the light. We actually laughed, thinking he would leave in a couple minutes. Our friends thought we were joking, so we took videos of him still pounding on the door. Our friends thought it was funny and karma, but we didn't find it amusing anymore. We thought we were in danger because he wouldn't leave. So I called my mom, who was at the Walmart about 10 minutes away. She sounded more like she was angry at us for throwing snowballs at cars than concerned that someone was banging on the door. She said she would call one of the neighbors to come scare him off. Then she hung up. It felt like an eternity before he stopped banging on the front door. But only a couple minutes passed, and then the banging sounds came from a different door. And it hit me that I didn't lock that door, and he could easily come in. Then I got a disturbing call from my mom, telling me one of the neighbors said she could see a deranged-looking man, possibly drugged out, looking through my room's window and the front door window. We sat there for as long as we could and decided to make a plan to get the 410 shotgun in my mom's room, load it, and then make a break for it. But when we entered my mom's room to look for the gun, we saw his face at the window. His hairy, withered-looking face. We screamed and ran. Drake had the idea to blast a police siren sound on my speaker in my room, so we ran to set the speaker up. While doing so, we heard the back door open, the one which was left unlocked. Drake managed to get the siren sound effect to play on my speaker, and that apparently worked, as we heard him leave through the same door he entered. Moments later, one of the neighbors, Paul, rang the doorbell. I let him inside, and he stayed with us and waited for the cops and my mom to get there. We explained everything. The cops and my mom all said we shouldn't have been throwing snowballs at cars like that, obviously, and that we got lucky that they showed up when they did. My advice is to never mess with people like we did. You never know who you're dealing with.
Yeah, no shit.